Hello everyone, it's Sylvia from Failrighttarot Tarot. Welcome to my channel and welcome to what I hope is going to be a very special video. So, today marks my 2 months anniversary on YouTube. So my channel just turned 2 months old and it's such a baby still, and I'm so very insecure when doing these videos, but let me tell you, it's been a very rewarding and very humbling experience at the same time. I really love all the support and love that I receive from all of you guys. It's really heartwarming, and I must say that if I had any hesitation at first on whether to continue or not, especially because I give this kind of a different approach to tarot. I use tarot for personal growth, self-care, and to face some of the strongest emotions that we experience as human beings. But I receive so much support, and it really makes me happy whenever some of you reaches out to me and say, hey, your words really resonated with me. It just makes it all worth it. So I'm really happy about the last 2 months. But it's also my birthday, so it's a very special video, and I've decided to do a very special tag. So today I'm going to show you my perfect pairs, which is a tag to the lovely Lisa Papez. And we're going to have a look at 10 tarot decks and 10 oracle decks and how they pair with each other, and I hope you all enjoy it. So the first pair that I'm going to show you is the Starseeker Tarot with the Modern Nirvana Oracle. For those of you who are not new to my channel, you'll know that I really like pairing tarot and oracle decks in such a way that it's not a really good match when it comes to aesthetics. But I really like it when the vibes match and the energy of the two decks are very similar. And now this is not always something that translates into an aesthetically pleasing match, but let's say that most of the time it does. And I believe that whenever you have that rare combination of aesthetics and vibes and energies, then you really have a match made in heaven. And I believe and I hope that the 10 matching 10 pairings that I'm going to show you today will definitely make you feel like we have matches made in heaven. Now, as I said, now we're starting with the Modern Nirvana Oracle. This is by Jennifer Sodini, and the Starseeker Tarot, which is by Nikki Ferrada. Now, I really enjoy using both of these decks, both together and also on their own. I believe that these ones really go well together because they share the same color palette, they share the same kind of graphic art style, and it's also, when it comes to the energies of these two decks, I really feel like there's a lot of echoes going on, there's a lot of resonances between the cards. It makes it easier sometimes to get what the specifics of the message of the tarot are whenever we combine it with a really good oracle deck. Now, if we have a look, we can see, for example, that the messages are bounced back and forth. So we see the ecstasy between the Ace of Swords and the Four of Cups. Perhaps it's time to step out and just get the new interest, get that ecstatic enthusiasm you can get whenever you start a new project. As you can see, there's a lot of very strong similarities between the way the characters are portrayed. I don't think it's coincidences, guys, when I see, for example, the lonely figure in this card, the Boat card from the Modern Nirvana Oracle, is very similar to the position, for example, of the figure in the Two of Swords from the Starseeker Tarot. It is very important to understand that whenever these things happen, they are not for chance, they are not random. It actually means something. It's the way in which your tarot and oracle deck are trying to speak to you. They're trying to establish a conversation. They are trying to show you things. They're trying to, if you're a visual person, for example, like I am, then they'll definitely show you things in such a way that it will strike your imagination, that will really get your attention, and that definitely did. So this is telling me that rocking the boat, whatever rocking the boat right now, and it feels like I'm definitely going through a tough time because it's raining on top of everything. The sun is covered by an eclipse and there's clouds there, and the waters are really choppy, so it feels like perhaps I'm on my own and perhaps I'm going through some tough times, and therefore this makes me feel stuck. And it's a situation that I find myself in, and I'm really struggling. I'm struggling to get out of that sense of being stuck, of being in a rocking boat on my own, maybe lost in the middle of the ocean. And therefore, this is something that I need to look at it as if it were an ending. It's the sign that something that I'm going through needs to come to an end. It's touching that rock bottom. That only means that I'm going to improve after that. These kind of resonances, I love calling them resonances. Sometimes you may hear the term echoes as well, and it's very important to be able to notice that. And I think I posted the video about tarot decks that I wanted when I was a beginner 35 years ago. I think that one of the things that I would have loved to know, and I didn't when I started reading tarot, was that it's not just necessarily the association of meanings between two cards or three cards, or cards laid out in a spread. It's the way these cards speak to each other. It's the directionality of the figures that are right there in the cards for you to see. One of the most important things is not necessarily to know the meaning. Oh yes, of course you need to know the meanings, especially when it's related to an RWS system or a Marseille or a Thoth. But you become a lot more attuned with tarot when you start noticing these things. For example, in the card of perception here, you can see that the figure is actually looking towards the person who's here, the Knight of Pentacles. So it's asking you, it's exhortating you to use your perception and look at the situation the Knight of Pentacles is finding themselves in. So it looks like there's a stepping ladder or a stepping stone journey in front of them to the top. So it looks like this kind of a journey they've just embarked upon is going to be probably hard, probably difficult. But if you perceive it with your own senses, and if you use your intuition, that is definitely something that is going to help you reach your goal. Or, for example, the fact that we see a lot of recurrences between the colors. We have rainbows in here, and we have rainbows in the oracle card as well, and rainbow in the eyeshadow of the person represented here. This is incredibly interesting because it reminds me not just of the fact that the prism is an all-encompassing card. It means that we include all of the colors of the rainbow, but it's also reminding me of the enthusiasm, which is always very characteristic of the Fool card. So perhaps it's reminding me of this enthusiasm and looking at all of the colors of creation in order to go ahead and just do those last steps that are separating myself from the goal that I'm looking forward to, even though it might feel like it's very, very heavy right now because we've taken everything upon our shoulders. And I really love, again, the echoes and resonances between this gratitude card and the Queen of Cups and the Page of Pentacles. It almost seems like it's an invitation for the Queen of Cups to stand up and go back to the innocence of a page, or in specific, because it's the Page of Pentacles, perhaps get in touch with your natural side, your side which is most attuned to nature. I really love the fact that there's also sigils in the modern Nirvana Oracle. And just the last one, for example, resistance between the Eight of Wands and the Two of Wands. We have this kind of duality in the resistance card that is echoed in the Two of Wands, the fiery energy that is in both the tarot cards. It tells you a lot about the energy, about the nature of this kind of resistance. It's a resistance, it's a fiery resistance, it's a resistance that is compromising, it's a resistance that is including a lot of, for example, the speed of the Eight of Wands, but also the moment of stillness that you find yourself in when you are in a Two of Wands situation, because you're just looking at something around you, you're looking at the world in front of you, and that world is not enough for you anymore. So it's the precursor of a moment in which you are going to release your expectations and get a hold on new plans. So these two are really, really good together. And this one is the Modern Nirvana Oracle by Jennifer Sodini, and this is the Starseeker Tarot by Nikki Ferrara. And here's another match that, in my opinion, is made in heaven between the Vindur deck by Leo Panthea and the Soul Trees Ascension Oracle by Alison Williams Yee. Now, this is not at first look a perfect match, because I believe that aesthetics, even though I keep on saying that it's not the only thing that matters, are quite important, especially when it comes to first looks. But I'm not a person that stops at the surface, and whenever I was using especially the Vindur deck, I felt like, because of the nature of this deck, if you're not familiar with it, has been conceived by the creator during their stay in Iceland. Therefore, it's a lot of you may feel a lot of clash between the energies of fire and ice, which is typical of the landscape, the rugged landscape of Iceland, which is one of the most beautiful countries on earth, by the way. But I felt like it needed to be paired up with some kind of softness, a softness that wasn't necessarily camouflaging the truth that was coming to the surface thanks to the tarot, but it was in some way helping into channeling it in a more conducive way, in such a way that we can actually understand what the tarot is going to tell us without it's a way of rounding the edges, let's put it this way. So let's have a look at how these two pair together. I really, really like the aesthetics of both of these decks. There are some cards that really look like they could go really well together. Sometimes the colors are pretty much very similar. You can see here Confusion and the Knight of Cups shared a very similar color palette, but because of the nature, as I said before, of the Vindur deck, there's it's also because the Vindur deck is rather peepish. It's a peepish kind of deck, as you can see, and also because the suits of this deck have different colors, and the colors is consistent throughout the whole suit. But it's also, I believe, something that we can look at when we focalize our attention, for example, on the message expressed in the Oracle card, and we use the adjacent tarot cards to expand on that message. So we're talking about a breakthrough in this case between the Judgment card and the Four of Pentacles. I really believe that there is a visual component to this kind of reading in specific, but there's also a very meaningful spiritual component. So we're looking at a breakthrough, breaking through a barrier. I believe that the Four, since I tend to read numerologically, I believe that the Four is the card of stagnation. Yes, it's a card of consolidation after the growth of the tree, but sometimes it can become some kind of stagnation. So if it's a stillness that is happening in our lives right now, we need to wake up to it. We need to gather all the energy that we can get from the Judgment card and break through that stillness. the unknown between the Page of Wands and the Page of Pentacles. I really like the fact that we've got two pages here, for example. The pages are to me, they are the beginning of an adventure. They are at the beginning of their lives as well. They are at the beginning of something new. And they symbolize let's say, the naivety of the Fool. So the Fool that steps into the unknown. So there's a lot of resonances here going on between the Oracle card and the Tarot card. Perhaps we're being invited to be taking that leap forward that we are a bit hesitant in taking. Reflection between the King of Wands and the Ten of Pentacles. I really love the fact that there's always some kind of echoes between perhaps the geometrical shapes of the Oracle, like in this case, and the Pentacle card. Sometimes it's a message that it comes straight away. Sometimes perhaps it's a message that requires a bit of intuition. Sometimes it's something that requires also the knowledge of the cards. But it's what I notice between the way in which these two decks speak to each other is that there's always a flow, and the flow is always a very strong one, a very powerful one, something that really takes you in. It's not just a static kind of reading, it's something that really brings you inside the reading itself. It's like stepping into a different kind of world. So prosper between the Wheel of Fortune and Lovers, that's unbelievable. The way in which we can expand. What are we going to look into for prosperity? Where do we want to focus our attention in order to bring more prosperity into our lives? Because our lives is made of ups and downs. And it's normal. It's what life is supposed to be. But it's also a matter of choices. So there's the duality of the ups and downs of the Wheel of Fortune, the duality of the choices that we need to take, as invited by the Lovers card. So our prosperity is probably a bit of a balance between these two. And the last one, so we've got instinct between the Knight of Pentacles and the Six of Wands. I really like the fact that there's a lot of similarities between the branches in the trees of the Soul Trees Ascension deck, and also the branches depicted in the pips of the Vindur deck. Now, as I said, these were the Vindur deck and the Soul Trees Ascension deck. And the next match made in heaven is between the Oracle of Oddities 1, 2, and 3 by Claire Goodchild and the Savvy Soul Tarot by Judy Whitelish. If you watch my channel, you'll know how much I love the Savvy Soul Tarot. It is my soul tarot deck. It's just so much of all the cards resonates for me. It's like it's based on my entire life, and each and every card, it's like it's taken from one of my memories. I really love pairing it with the Oracle of Oddities, which is actually pairing a very recent attempt that I've done. But I found that it resonates so much that I actually started using it more and more. Mostly it's also because it does, the two decks do share that kind of color palette. But one funny fact is that, for example, I really like the way Julie has chosen to depict the figures, the characters in all of the cards of the tarot, in a kind of a scale of grays. And the reason behind that is because she wants them to be coming out completely devoid of any preconceived concept. So she wanted to start with these figures as if it were from a completely blank or gray slate, and it's up to us, the readers, or us as the ones that are experiencing the tarot, to fill them up with our own colors. And I really like to see that resonating in the way in which the bones are depicted in the Oracle of Oddities, which are also gray. It's as if the Oracle of Oddities was giving you the skeleton base, that the structure, that immediate first structure upon which you can then build up and flesh out your characters, which are taken from the cards of the tarot. So we've got the Queen of, for example, hope between the Queen of Wands and the Three of Coins. Humanity between the Knight of Coins and the Eight of Coins. And you will notice how there's a lot of the two decks that is balanced out in the energies, for example, the elemental energies. So to me, the Savvy-Soul Tarot is a lot of air and earth. It's got a lot of air and earth energy to it, whilst, for example, we have a lot of fire and water in the Oracle of Oddities. For example, we've got transformation between the Magician and the Eight of Swords, perhaps this cage of our own making, something that we cannot seem to grow out of, and we feel trapped inside it. It necessitates some kind of transformation, and we have the right tools to get out of it. We have the right tools at our own disposal. Everything that we need in order to get out of this cage is within our own reach. So we got knowledge between the Queen of Cups and the Six of Cups. I really like this combo in the sense that I always thought of the Queen of Cups as someone who is the mystic when it comes to archetype, because I read the same way as the court cards as according to the archetypal energy. But I really like the fact that the Queen of Cups can take advantage of the knowledge of her experience, for example, by looking back into the past. Or cooperation, for example, between the Star and Temperance, which is a fantastic combo. Now, one last one. We've got victory between the Four of Wands and the High Priestess. That's a really, really good match. So this is between the Savvy-Soul Tarot by Judy Whitelash and the Oracle of Oddities 1, 2, 3 by Claire Goodchild. And now for something a bit more spicy, I am going to pair up the Macabre Tarot by Sam Rook and the Wandering Soul Oracle by Rachel Jane. These two decks have a very, very similar kind of energy. I really love them. I am very grateful to the Wandering Soul Oracle because it gives me the possibility to use the Macabre Tarot, not necessarily just in the darker season, but you know, throughout the rest of the year as well, because it does bring up that kind of lighter kind of message that is still there with the Macabre Tarot, but because it is potentially one of the darker kind of decks, then most people, and myself included, would have probably used it, you know, around Halloween. Now, I live in Australia, therefore, for me, Halloween is actually a really bright time of the year because, of course, for us it's still spring, but I do come from the northern hemisphere, which means that I am used to see Halloween at the same time as Samhain, and you know, celebrate it at the same time, which makes it a bit odd right now, for example, but it also is an advantage for me, I notice, because I don't mind using darker decks for Halloween or around Halloween, even though the weather is not necessarily conducive of a darker deck, you know what I mean? And but also on the other hand, I can also use darker deck when it's, for example, July and August, which are traditionally really bright and hot months in the northern hemisphere, because it's actually quite the opposite here in Australia. So I consider myself lucky when it comes to these kind of things. But as you can see, these two decks are not just sharing the same kind of color palette. So you've got the kind of black and white when it comes to the Wandering Soul Oracle, and the black and white with some splashes of gold every now and then for the Macabre Tarot. But they also share the same, I believe, the same type of style, the art style. There's a lot of very similar elements to them. It's something that creates the opportunity to really expand on the message, both from the Oracle and the Tarot decks. We've got Tarot of Cups, the future predictions between Tarot of Cups and Four of Bones. We got protected between Justice and the Six of Daggers. Now, this tarot deck has, there's a few different names on the suits, for example. So daggers in this case is a sword, so it's the suit of the air, the suit of the mind. We can see how perhaps, you know, Justice, so the card of consequences to me, will show some protection, will prepare us, will protect us in a way whenever we embark into this really difficult journey that it is the Six of Daggers. We are going towards something that is definitely something better, but it's a difficult journey. It's something that we didn't necessarily choose to do, but we have to. So necessity has prevailed, and we need that kind of protection in order to get to the other side. So we've got Ignite between the Wheel of Fortune and Nightmare of Crystals. As you can notice, also the name of the court cards has been a kind of changed and revolutionized. The Nightmare of Crystals, I remind myself that Nightmare is the Knights, because Knight has the same kind of root of the word. So we've got Memories between the Ten of Cups and Eight of Crystals, which is very beautiful. I really appreciate the way this oracle especially lets me gives another meaning to the way in which I use the tarot, the macabre tarot. So we've got bound between the Chariot and the Regent. Now the Regent in this case is the Emperor. I think that in this case really refers back to the order, the sense of leadership, but also of re-establishing an order after chaos, for example. That is the peculiarity of the Emperor. I really enjoy using these two together. It's as I said, it is a match made in heaven. So this is the Wandering Soul Oracle, and this is the Macabre Tarot. And another really great match is between the Poesis Oracle and the Yokai Yochi Tarot. Now, if you watched a few videos on my channel, you'll notice that I'm doing a very deep dive into the Yokai Yochi. And the reason is that I really appreciate the mythology behind it, the legends behind it. So all of the cards reflect a particular kind of a story or a myth or a legend behind the yokai. So yokai is the Japanese word for spirit. I believe that this allows me, for example, to do a very introspective kind of work, and it's a work that has been at times quite difficult. I'm going to be honest about it. Not difficult to read, because it's something that really jumps to my attention. It comes to the surface quite easily. It is very evocative. Both these decks are actually very evocative. The keywords of this, the Poesis Oracle, are very strong. They really make you think, which is something that I really enjoy. So many of the legends behind the stories of the Yokai Yochi Tarot are some of them are very scary, but some of them are very sad, very touching, very deeply moving. And it's impossible not to have your inner compassion put in motion whenever you look at the legends. And that's a way for me to be able to achieve that self-acceptance that I need. So whenever my inner compassion is activated, I use that and I channel that in order to be able to accept the parts of myself that are more difficult to deal with. Obviously, as you can see, there's also a lot of resonance when it comes to color palette, which is practically the same. The artwork looks very similar as well. There is definitely a conversation that is established between these two decks, and it's a very beautiful conversation. It's not always an easy conversation to listen to, but it's a conversation that will make you a better person if you allow yourself to accept whatever it is that is communicated to you. So we've got, for example, shadow between the Three of Wands and the Nine of Swords. Perhaps it's something that is in the shadow, that part of yourself that you don't want to look at, that is causing so much anxiety to you that you wake up, you know, with your heart in your throat at 3 a.m. It's something that needs to be moved on from. It's something that, you know, you need to take the leap. You need to set your wheels into motion in order to take distance. It puts some distance between that and yourself, Perhaps it's not the time in which you need to double down on what makes you anxious, what gives you fear. Perhaps it's the time in which you have to actually move on. Or the unknown between the devil and the Three of Pentacles. Seek between the Two of Wands and the King of Swords. Now this is really beautiful because again it's like an invitation to step outside. As you can notice, for example, there's a lot of similarities between the messages behind the Seek card of the Oracle. So it's someone that is in front of a steering wheel and it's looking at constellations in order to find their way. And it's the same concept that we have in the Two of Wands, in which we are definitely looking outside. We are looking into stepping outside of our comfort zone. We're looking into a new journey to embark upon. We're looking into that kind of unknown, but also we seek that kind of adventure. Or balance between Temperance and the Ace of Pentacles. Now, to me, balance is indeed referring to Temperance. Temperance is the card of, you know, this kind of giving and taking of the element of water, which is transferred between one cup and the other in a constant flow, in a constant motion, which is definitely something that is reminded to me by the card of Balance. It's a very beautiful interaction. As you can see, I'm so very happy whenever I use this deck. I can accomplish so much, and it's definitely a match that helps me navigate through even some tough times, thanks to the depth of the oracle, but also the way in which, as I said before, the tarot is actually tapping into my inner compassion. So these two are the Yokai Yochi Tarot and the Poesis Oracle. So the next match is actually between two oracle decks. They're both called the Inner Queen Oracle, and they have the same number of cards, and they have basically the same cards, except that this deck on the right has got a more white kind of artwork and color palette, and the absence, let's say, of colors, whereas this one is actually filled in with colors. And the Gentle Tarot. Now you'll notice that I actually use the tarot and the oracle decks in a different way, a slightly different way this time. So normally I put the tarot deck on the sides and I use the oracle deck in the center. But because in this case we're using two oracle decks, which is the same one but in two different art styles, I'm actually going to do the opposite. So I do this type of work whenever I want to nurture the aspects of myself that I find sometimes difficult to accept. So this is merely a work of self-acceptance, but it's not just merely that. It's something that goes much deeper. It's something that goes to the roots of the reason why I may not be able to accept some parts of myself. In this case, I would say it's mostly referred to physical aspects of myself. I have had throughout my life various different stages of love, hate when it comes to the way I look, and I like to think that, you know, with age and wisdom, there is some level of acceptance towards it. It is always difficult though, because we need to recognize that we live in a day and age in which it's the image that we project of ourselves onto others is very, very important, and in some cases actually the only thing that we can use to get ourselves be known to others. And it's very difficult when you don't have that kind of acceptance, when you don't have that kind of confidence to show your true colors to someone else. So I use these decks because they are very gentle. Now I particularly really like the Gentle Tarot by Mary in the Sky, but I do believe that these two, so let's say the Inner Queen Oracle, both in the white edition and the color edition, and the Gentle Tarot work really, really well together. We don't just have the same color palette or the same, you know, way in which we depict the bodies. There's body diversity in the Inner Queen Oracle that I really appreciate, as well as in the Gentle Tarot. The line work is very similar. So the way in which I would read them, for example, I would definitely look at what message I can get out of the oracle first. So kiss yourself awake. To me, kissing and awake is definitely that message of opening up to the world that is also reflected in the Nine of Stones or Nine of Earth, for example. So open yourself to the possibility that the nature around you has to offer. These are very, very beautiful decks to use together. It's a very nurturing kind of conversation that they can have. Oops, sorry, this one is not supposed to be there. It's a very kind of nurturing conversation that they have. It's something that it's not just gratuitously saying accept yourself. It's saying accept yourself because you are worth it, and it's actually really, really powerful. I really enjoy the way in which something that is normally difficult to deal with is non-judgmental. It's faced with a non-judgmental attitude, which can still be confrontational, and it can still be quite difficult to deal with at times. Because you still need to look at it. You need to look at the part of yourself that you don't necessarily accept, that you don't necessarily like. But the fact that using these two decks together, for example, gives you a bit of a softer kind of approach that sometimes can make it slightly easier. So that independence and protection, you're kind of going back and forth between what you need, right? Between you need protection, so you are surrounding yourself with all these barriers, but you also need independence, and you cannot necessarily be independent when you constantly need protection. And there's a Nine of Cups that tells you that perhaps the harmony that you're establishing with your own feelings is something that will give you both protection but also independence. As you can see, this conversation is flowing very easily. It's very beautiful. And by the way, these Inner Queen oracles work really, really well with the Stunning Tower as well. I'm just gonna throw it out there. So these two are the white and the color edition of the Inner Queen Oracle, and this is the Gentle Tarot. And the next match is between the Tarot of Bohemian Secrets by Alice Mates and the Death Doula Oracle by Theodore Saint. So the Tarot of the Bohemian Secrets, I think it's a really beautiful tarot deck, and let me spare a couple of words about it. So it's the beautiful fruit of cooperation between the photographer, the German photographer Alice Mates, and the art collective Oddities Resistance, which is an art collective from Port-au-Prince, which is the capital of Haiti. Now Alice went there and she started cooperating with the Oddities Resistance, and they basically did this project together in which they staged the photos and they shot them in the slums of Port-au-Prince, and they used everything that they had, so props or everything that they had in their daily lives. And I think it's a very beautiful result. It's something that is really respectful of the Haitian culture. It's something that it's also made because of the collaboration between the photographer and the artist from Port-au-Prince themselves. It's something that is definitely helping create awareness around the conditions of life, but also the strong creativity that you can still find in places that have been suffering for so long, whether it's because of historical events that happened. Now, I really believe that these two decks work really well together. Most of the time I use this combination together because I want to establish some kind of presence in the liminal space. So the Tarot of the Bohemian Secrets really gives me the possibility to focus on something that is beyond the objects of daily life. Because it's so different from the reality that I have in front of me, and it gives me the possibility to just escape from that. And at the same time, whenever I use it in combination with the death doula, it creates the optimal conditions for me to really meditate and reach some kind of communion or communication with my soul, my inner soul. Especially because the death doula does have that kind of, it does create that kind of connection, that kind of bridge. I really believe that when it comes to an aesthetic point of view, for example, we can find very strong similarities and resemblances and echoes between the two decks. But it's also the type of energy that is channeled by the two, that it really is conducive to that type of work. And it's not necessarily a kind of reading that I do for divination. There is absolutely no, it's not conducive of that. I don't necessarily tell tarot what to do. I just use tarot and I listen to it, and I listen to the message that it has to deliver. And if I find myself being really open to accept the message, whatever that message is, then it is a very versatile kind of a tool. And it's sometimes it's just for meditation. Sometimes I really just look at the cards and I start thinking, or I just leave my mind drift away from me and go wherever it wants to go. That is especially, it originates in the messages of the Death Doula Oracle, and then it expands onto the messages from the Tarot of the Bohemian Secrets. So whenever I feel like find the way between the High Priestess, for example, and the Ten of Brooms, brooms in this case is wands. To me, it's very important to reflect, to ponder on the message given to me by the find a way sentence. So the High Priestess is recommending that I need to tap into my own intuition, which is, the meaning of the High Priestess. But I also have this kind of advice not to take everything upon myself, not to take it probably even too seriously. So you need to find a way in a world in which I kind of don't take it too seriously, but I still rely on the intuition. Perhaps don't give it a shape, don't give it a form. Let the intuition do what it does best. So if it needs to step away from all of the burden, then just let it go. So for example, we've got thrombosis between the Star and the Ten of Cups. I really like the word thrombosis. Thrombosis stands for blockage, and it's the blockage that you have within yourself, within your energies. Wherever energies are not flowing, wherever they're not alive, then there's a thrombosis, there's a blockage, and you need to deal with this kind of blockage. You can just tiptoe around it if you want to, but sooner or later you're just gonna head back to to square one whenever you began your journey. So use this harmony that is given by the Star, for example, and the community in order to find a way to deal with this blockage. So these two decks are really communicative. They are very, very intense, but it's a kind of work that needs to be done, and it's a kind of work that, when done in the right conditions, is actually very, very rewarding. So this is the Tarot of Bohemian Secrets and the Death Doula Oracle. And the next match is between the Murder of Crows Tarot by Corrado Roy and the Season of the Witch Samhain Oracle by Lorianne Anderson and Juliet Diaz, illustrated by Jada Rose. Now, this pairing is, in my opinion, aesthetically stunning. I have to say that the aesthetics in this case is definitely probably the main reason why I pair these two decks together. I do tend to use them, being both of them rather dark decks, I do tend to use them during the darker months. Now, the Season of the Witch Samhain Oracle, as the name says, is something that is best used during Samhain, but honestly, I use it in July, August, which is our Samhain in the Southern Hemisphere, but I also use it around Halloween. And I find it's actually a very kind of nice and spicy and a kind of dark pairing that it actually is very visually stimulating. What I do like about these two together is the fact that even though, you know, sometimes the color palettes are exactly the same, although it does have some resemblances between the darker monochromatic colors of the Murder of Crows and the sort of a muted color palette of the Season of the Witch Oracle, there is a lot you can do with the messages from the Oracle. So it's the kind of, you know, it's got a keywords, but it's not just a keyword. You can choose to use just a keyword, and in this case it will work perfectly because you have Broom between the Seven of Swords, for example, and the Three of Wands. And ironically, you can see the echoes between the branches of the Oracle card and, you know, the three wands of the tarot. But it's also, whenever you read, you go more in depth into the Oracle and you read the message saying, what dreams may come from what you seek. Make room, make way, a clearing need be. That is definitely for me something that, you know, make way or push away even the really bad betrayal feelings brought upon by the Seven of Swords, and do that kind of clearing and let new dreams come through. And to me, definitely the Three of Wands is the card of the trouble, is the card of setting your wheels into motion and, you know, going into that journey. So you can definitely use just the keyword of the Oracle to expand the message of the tarot, but you can also, and I think it's actually much better when you pay attention to the message of the Oracle card. It is very dark. I did have a few really dark readings with these two decks together, which is, you know, sometimes you kind of ask yourself if, you know, reading in the darker season, do they have to be necessarily dark? Sometimes I like to mix them up. Sometimes it's best when you have, for example, a kind of a funny or quirky kind of darker deck, like the Zombie Tarot, for example, for me is a classic example of, you know, you can definitely have this kind of readings with the dark deck, but it also makes you chuckle. It's a funny kind of creepy. And some other times you just feel like you need to access the kind of darker parts of yourself, and therefore perhaps these two decks together are really good for shadow work. I really like the fact that the figures in the Oracle are very similar to the art style of the figures on the tarot. Now, Corrado Roy is one of my favorite illustrators. He's Italian and he's been the illustrator of many comic books that I was reading. All of them the horror, the horror genre. So one last card, we got Silence between the Four of Swords and Death, which is, it couldn't be more silent. Now this is a really beautiful and dark pairing between the Season of the Witch Samhain Oracle and the Murder of Crows Tarot. And another beautiful pairing is between the Literary Witches Oracle and the Poe Tarot. This pairing, you guys, is just absolutely unbelievable, and it's not just because we are talking about, obviously, literally witches, so someone, you know, the famous female writers in history, and Edgar Allan Poe, which is a famous writer, but it's also, it's one of those really rare combination between a very similar kind of a color scheme, a very similar kind of artwork, a very similar kind of energy and vibes, and it just works, and it works beautifully. I really like that the Poe Tarot, as you can see, has got a quote at the bottom of each card, and these quotes are taken from works of Edgar Allan Poe. Whenever I, for example, feel like I need to step into my creative space as a writer, sometimes I impose myself a kind of a schedule, and I don't always feel myself attuned to what I need myself to do. So I'm not always in the space in which I need to create. Sometimes I just feel lazy for some reason, or the juices of creativity don't exactly flow on command. So what I do, I actually use these two decks together to gain some kind of inspiration, and it actually works really well. These are the two decks that whenever you read them together, you can actually, step away from any kind of interpretation referred to the tarot and the fact that the tarot is based on the RWS system, but actually let the oracle lead the way. So you've got, for example, the Humanity card, which is represented by Flannery O'Connor, and it's between the Five of Paws and the Six of Wells. Now, it's very interesting because the Paw Tarot has a different name, as you can tell for the suit. So we got wells as in cups in the suit of water, and paws is representing pentacles or the suit of earth. So we've got this sense of humanity, loss of humanity. The Five of Pentacles to me is not just the being left out in the cold, it's the fact that we lost our own identity as human beings, and we are kind of less. We are kind of not complete. We are kind of missing on something, and we need to go in our journey. It's a kind of a point at the lowest of our journeys in which we feel like nothing and no one is around us. No one will give us a hand, and we need to find back our own humanity. And the way in which we can do that is, for example, tapping into that nostalgia of the golden times of the past, remembering what it was like to be surrounded by that kind of familiarity, that kind of humanity, the home, the sense of home. So if we concentrate on that, we can definitely recharge our own batteries, for example, and then we can step away or step outside again, ready to take upon another challenge. As you can see, it's very... So I do start from the regular meaning of the RWS cards, but I also let the Oracle lead the way in the interpretation. So we got the subconscious here, for example, between the Nine of Wells and the Eight of Paws, which is really beautiful because it reminds you with the Nine of Cups that there is that kind of introspection in the suit of water, and that leads you into a stronger bond with your subconscious. And whenever you work enough on that, you will achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. And just another one with endurance between the Two of Candles and strength. I really appreciate the way these two decks talk to each other. I think that whenever it came to choosing the top 10 pairs between Oracle and Tarot cards that I wanted to show you today for this special video, this special episodes, I think that I may have had a few doubts for other pairs that I've chosen, but this one was definitely one of the first that I picked. So we are looking at the Paw Tarot by Tricia Lee Shufelt, paired up with the Literary Witches Oracle by Taisia Kitaiskaya, and illustrated by Katie Horan. And the last pairing I'm going to show you today is between the Naked Heart Tarot. This is the 3rd edition by Gillian C. Wilde, and the Or et Ombre Oracle by Stephanie Lafranc. These two decks are made for each other. There is no other way to look at it. It's as if the two authors decided to sit down together, at the table and just decide how to create their own decks. These two decks, this is one of my favorite matches, and it's actually one of the most recent ones because I got this oracle, the Ors et Ombre Oracle, quite recently. So it is a French oracle, and it does come with a massive guidebook. Now, to read the guidebook, you kind of need to know a bit of French, or, you know, if you do use Google Translate, for example, you can probably navigate your way through the meanings of the cards. However, it does help to know French. But if you just want to read it intuitively looking at the cards, you actually can. It does have several different categories, and they do look at planets, for example, at the phases of the moon, at familiar energies and animals, for example. I really like the way these two decks talk to each other. There is this constant communication going on. It's something that is, it feels like it's a murmuring and in the background. And it's energetic, it's a flow, it's something that has a life of its own, for example. The only thing that let's say I would prefer it to be different is that as you can see, probably, the Oracle deck has got a very glossy kind of surface, while the Tarot deck has a matte surface, and that's the only thing that I think it doesn't necessarily work well. But I don't let myself be stopped by that, because whenever there's two decks that speak so well with each other, I don't see any problem in having a different finish to the cardstock. I really like the Naked Heart. It's probably one of my favorite decks. I used to have a first edition, then because of that I waited quite some time to get the third edition. Then I was reading about the changes between the several editions, and I just decided that I need to have it, especially because I've heard, I could be completely wrong, but I think I heard that this is going to be the last one. So the third edition, and there's not going to be any reprint. And so if you have it, you know, keep it. If you don't, you might want to look for it, because I don't think there's going to be another reprint, or not even a fourth edition of the Naked Heart Tarot. But as I said, you know, sometimes in the tarot community, there's a lot of these kind of announcements, and they don't necessarily pan out. Sometimes it's actually not true, or it is true at the moment, but then maybe, you know, the creator changes their mind, and you can get these decks again. Now, these two are really, really beautiful together, and I'm not talking just aesthetics, as you can see, although aesthetics does play a really huge part in this combo. The strong energy that comes out of the Oracle is really matched, I believe, by the Tarot. So in this case, for example, we have the first crescent and engage your step. Now, this is an invitation to move out, to start that journey that you meant to start. And we've got it, and it's in between the Heart of Pentacles and the Movement of Cups. And I really love this, because it's, without even planning it, you've got the Heart of Pentacles, which refers to, and it gives me this feeling that it connects to the central object that is in the Oracle card, which is actually not a heart, but it does look like a heart. And I believe that it has been, you know, stylized in such a way that it looks like a heart. But it talks about engaging your steps, so putting yourself in motion, and then it talks about, we can see it here reflected in the message out of the Movement of Cups. And this is not infrequent. If you use these two decks together, you will see that these kind of messages get resonances and echoes pretty much in every pull you do. So it's something that it makes it very enjoyable. I believe that using tarot does not necessarily have to be always mono feeling. I don't know how to express that, but it doesn't necessarily have to convey just one feeling every time you use it. No, it sometimes is, you know, used for introspection. It could be confrontational, it could be sad, it could be really tough sometimes, but you can actually lighten the mood. So it could be very funny, it could be quirky, it could be creepy, it could be, you know, it could put you in a really good mood, for example, whenever there's correspondences with colors, like in this case. I really like it. So we got the wolf, and justice. Now wolf, it has as keywords, has got the earth and the territory. And in this case, I really like this association because the earth is reminding me of the suit of pentacles, which is here with the 10 of pentacles. But it's also the territory. Territory is establishing your own boundaries, which is something that speaks to me like the justice card. So as you can see, it's just, it gives you so many opportunities to expand on the message whenever you read with these two together. It's just mind-blowing. I really love these two together. So this again is the Ombre Oracle, and this is the Naked Heart Tarot. Now thank you so much for watching this video till the end and staying with me till the end. This was, as I said at the beginning, it's a very special episode because it's both my 2 months anniversary on TarotTube, let's say, on my channel, and it's also my birthday. So have a wonderful day, everyone. Please, if you like this video, consider subscribing to my channel. More to come. Have a great day.